Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going to be exploring the bright and spooky shades of Cracked Polish's new Toxic Wasteland collection. This is a colorful and bold take on your typical Halloween shades, which I'm really excited for, so I will save more of my thoughts for the end after some comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. The first polish in the collection is Cornea Killer, and this one is described as a neon orange with an orange glow. I love the name for this one. It is so accurate for such a blinding neon orange. This one was a little bit on the crelly side, so as seen here on the first coat, it was a little bit thin in some spots, but the formula was still relatively easy to work with and smooth to apply. I got it pretty even coverage on 2 coats, but it was just a little bit sheer where I could still see some nail line, but it wasn't too noticeable, at least not to me, or at least not under this lighting. If anything, you can see it more under direct sunlight, which I'll show you in a bit. But yeah, I thought this was good on 2 coats as seen here, and here it is in some adjusted lighting because I could see that the orange shimmer also has a shift to yellow, which makes it so bright. The next shade in the collection is Ooze, and this one obviously is a neon slime green cream. You guys know I love my lime greens, so I was really excited for this one, but I didn't love the formula on this. As you can see, it's just a little difficult to work with. It's not super smooth, but at the same time, it wasn't really thick, so I can't quite describe it. I don't know if I just didn't grab enough polish on the brush or if this was just a little bit more of a fast drying formula. And on the second coat here, I did have to dip back into the bottle a couple of times, and I tried going in with a slightly thicker second coat to sort of even everything out. And the good news is that it did get even, but it just was a little finicky to get there, but I still really love the color. Up next we have Nuclear Coolant, which is described as a bright royal blue with a blue sheen. This was another one that I really loved. When I just saw it in the bottle, I was so mesmerized, and I can't really explain why because it's just kind of a blue shimmery metallic almost. The color is just so intense, and the formula on this one was really lovely. It was super smooth, just a little bit sheer on the first coat, but I found it opaque enough for me on 2 coats, and the matching blue shimmer is just so gorgeous. It just gives it that lit from within kind of glow. I guess in certain lighting you could see a little hint of nail line. Again, it wasn't enough for me to do a 3rd coat, but maybe you might want one if you do thinner coats or if your nails are longer. The next polish we have is Charred, and this one is described as a soft black holographic with a dusting of gold glitters. I absolutely loved this one. I don't know, maybe it's just because I recently shared a video on my favorite black polishes, and I don't have many in my collection, but I definitely love this addition. It is just so beautiful. With it being described as a soft black, I definitely would agree with that, where I would almost just call it like a very dark charcoal gray. It's not a pure black, as you'll see later in the comparison portion, but it's still just so pretty. And the formula on this one was really nice too. It was a little sheer on the first coat, but perfectly opaque in 2, and the holo on this is a little on the subtle side, but I really liked it. Up next we have Acidic Tears, which is described as a dark magenta purple with sky blue flakes and green to gold to blue shifting shimmers. So since this is a multi-chrome, it is going to have a bit of a sheer formula, but this was a little more sheer than I was expecting it to be. As you can see here on the first coat, it's definitely a little streaky and not super flattering, but you can already see just how glowy it is with that multi-chrome purple to magenta kind of shimmer, and those sky blue flakies, which are so pretty. I feel like it's a lot easier to pick them up in real life, but hopefully while I'm moving my finger around, you can catch those glimpses of sky blue. So anyway, the second coat definitely helped a lot with the coverage. I did have to dip back into my bottle, so I don't know, maybe I was just having a weird painting day. So yeah, you might need a 3rd coat for this one if you want it fully opaque, but either way, it is super gorgeous. It builds up beautifully, and I love the shift in this. And rounding out the collection, we have Holographic Garbage, which is described as a translucent magnetic holographic topper. So I am going to be showing this in one coat over my bare nails, since I know people love to wear toppers over their bare nails. Obviously you can see the magnetic effect, but it's really hard to see the holographic effect against my bare nail because there's just not a lot of contrast. So I am also going to be swatching this over black for the best contrast, and I will obviously also show this over the rest of the collection. But yeah, here in one coat over black, I just feel like it's a little easier to see the little hollow flare against the magnetic stripe, though I will say it definitely is on the subtle side. And of course I did also want to show this with the velvet effect, where I just have the magnet on the side of my nail, paint my coat, and then pull the magnet away from my nail. I did also move the magnet to the other side of my nail because I feel like it just wasn't getting the full velvet effect that I wanted. And as you can see, I also didn't get the best or most even coverage. There's like a few streaks kind of on the left side of my nail. So yeah, I think I just didn't have the best painting day here. And because the hollow is on the more subtle side, it just wasn't as easy to see the effect, especially here under my desk lighting. But as I mentioned, here is the topper worn over the rest of the collection. I feel like it definitely stands out against some shades better than others. Like it kind of got lost over Ooze, but it stands out a little bit better over Nuclear Coolant as seen here. I would say this is one of my favorite combos along with over Charred. This one obviously has the most contrast, so you're able to see more of the hollow. And I thought it looked okay over Acidic Tears. I feel like the magnetic part is what you see more than the hollow. I guess maybe because it was just kind of competing with the multi-chrome base. And of course, here is the collection worn as a skittle. I'm wearing 2 coats of each with top coat in direct sunlight here. And I thought they looked pretty great. Like they have really good coverage. Again, maybe with the exception of Cornea Killer on my ring finger. I feel like in direct sunlight is where you could see a little bit more nail line. So again, you might want a 3rd coat for that one. But the other shades I thought had really great coverage. I just loved how bright and fun the skittle was. Like it's just such great Halloween colors, but in a different way, if that makes sense. I guess because they're just so bright, or like some of them are neons. I don't know. It's just really fun for me. And here in lower lighting, you can see just how bright they still are, but that's where Acidic Tears really shines. And here's the same skittle topped with 1 coat of Holographic Garbage. And hopefully here in direct sunlight, you can see that little hollow flare. Again, it is a little bit on the subtle side, but I could still see it, and it did look nice over the other colors. It's still going to be my favorite over Nuclear Coolant and Charred, just because there's the most contrast there. But just like with any other hollow, it's kind of going to lose all of the sparkle and shine once you're out of direct sunlight. So here in indirect light or in lower lighting, it just kind of looks like a silvery magnetic, but a very, very soft one. I guess you could always do a 2nd coat to build it up a little more. Now getting into comparisons, we're starting with Cornea Killer, and I wanted to show this next to a couple of previous cracked oranges, starting with Cut on Coral. That one's a cream and obviously nowhere near as neon. And for a shimmery orange, here it is next to Push and Pop, but as you can see, that one is just too light, so still not a dupe. I think the closest that I had to a dupe in my collection was China Glaze's Takes Two to Mango. I feel like in the bottle, they definitely look like they could be dupes, but there actually is a pretty decent difference on the nail, where China Glaze is a little bit more opaque and a little bit more eye searing, but the shimmer stands out more in cracked. This is 2 coats of each, by the way. Then for Ooze, I wanted to show this next to ILNP's Playlist, which is their neon green cream, but that one's a little bit more yellow leaning, not quite highlighter yellow, but just not a match. So I thought something closer would be Cirque's Kushy, which was one of their previous Vice shades, and these look nearly identical in the bottle, but they're a little bit different. And I also wanted to show this next to Cirque's High Society, which even though that one has a yellow shimmer, I thought the base colors were going to be an exact match, but I forgot how sheer that one is. This is 2 coats of each, and you can just see that High Society is a little too sheer. Kushy is definitely closer, it's just a smidge darker. Then for nuclear coolant, I wanted to quickly show this next to a quiet corner from the previous page turner collection. That one's a little too dark and also has this gold hollow glitter, so not a match. If anything, it's definitely a lot closer looking to B-Razz from one of the summer collections. It's another bright mid-toned blue kind of shimmer, but B-Razz is a little bit lighter and also a bit more sheer. This is again 2 coats of each, and you can just see a lot more nail line with B-Razz. And the shimmer is also a little bit different, where it's much finer and densely packed in nuclear coolant. And even though I knew this wasn't going to be a dupe, I just wanted to show this in case anybody was curious. Here is nuclear coolant next to Holo Tacos playing with Sapphire from the recent Birthstone collection. Next for Charred, I knew I wanted to show this next to Mooncat's Apparition, which I feel like I shared a couple of times on my channel just in the last couple of videos, so I'm sorry if it's repetitive, but it's one of my favorite black polishes. And here it is next to Cirque's Alter Ego, which is their black linear holographic. So this is a true black, and you can see just how much darker it is next to Charred. Mooncat also does have a true black base, but because I'm showing it unmagnetized, it looks very silvery here. But yeah, none of these are dupes. Then for Acidic Tears, I wanted to show this next to Velvet Seat Cushion from Cracked, which was from one of their fall collections last year. That one's a sparkly purple, which kind of has a similar purple shimmer, but it's not multi-chrome or anything. And while I didn't think this would be an exact dupe either, I also wanted to show this next to Holo Taco's Crystal Mommy from the Birthstone collection. That one's a crushed hollow with this like purple, pinky, magenta shimmer, so it kind of had a similar vibe, surprisingly, where they're not dupes by any means, but I don't know, there's something about them that just kind of looked a little similar, even though Acidic Tears has these sky blue flakies and no hollow. They ended up just looking a little bit more similar than I thought that they would. And lastly, for Holographic Garbage, I unfortunately don't have another holographic magnetic topper to compare this to, but I do have Cirque's Chemistry, which is just a silver magnetic topper. So I'm showing 1 coat of each over black, and you can just see how much more crisp Chemistry is. So I guess even the magnetic effect in Holographic Garbage is a little bit on the subtle side. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons of Cracked Polish's Toxic Wasteland collection. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this release because I thought it was so fun. Like, if you know me and my taste, you know that I just generally love brighter colors. And even though I do love a nice, dark, vampy, moody color, especially for fall and spooky season, I still really enjoy seeing just like really bright shades or straight up neons because I feel like they can work for Halloween specifically. I know there's only technically the 2 neons in here with the first 2 shades, and it is kind of a shame that I didn't love the formula as much with Ooze, but I feel like I've just come to expect that with Cracked, that the cream finishes are just kind of like hit or miss for me, or they're just a little finicky. And I do want to say that I have seen like a ton of other people sharing their reviews or swatches of this collection already, and their bottles of Ooze look so much like thinner, smoother, easier to work with, even on nails longer than mine. So as much as I love that you guys watch my reviews, I would still highly encourage you to check out as many reviews or swatches as you can, just because it's always helpful to see how polishes, you know, look on other people, how they apply, whether their nails are longer or shorter than mine. Because the other thing too is that we all have like different preferences, and I know for me personally, I've mentioned it before with Cracked creams, that I just usually find them to be on the thinner, almost crelly side, and that's just not my preference. And oddly, this one wasn't that, but it still was just a little finicky. But I'm still convinced that if I add like a couple of drops of thinner, it'll just be a lot smoother and easier to work with and be a solid 2-coater. So I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, the only other one that I wasn't super in love with though was Holographic Garbage. And unfortunately, if you didn't see, Monique put out a statement about this polish specifically that apparently there's just an issue with this like holographic magnetic pigment not lasting a long time. Like, it actually fades over time and loses the hollow effect. I know for me personally, I just generally am not the biggest fan of this hollow magnetic effect, whether we've seen it in like Mooncat or Cirque. it's just usually not my favorite, but I never realized that it was like an actual issue of the holo fading. To be fair, I don't know like what the timeline of that is, like whether it's after a year or two or sooner than that, I have no idea. But Monique obviously is now aware of this issue and she's not happy with it. It's not up to her standards. So she is going to be providing holographic garbage at a discounted price of $8, and it won't be restocked once it's sold out, which I know kind of sounds like, you know, FOMO or whatever, but I just want to share the information with you. Obviously, you don't have to pick it up just because it's super affordable. Again, please keep in mind that this is a polish that is going to lose its effect over time. So kind of similar to thermals or just neons in general that will like fade after a couple of years, but I don't know what the timeline is for something like this. So it could last longer or less than a couple of years. So a bit of a bummer, especially because I feel like holographic garbage is the best name. Like I love that for a nail polish. So it is unfortunate that it's not going to be able to stay around for long, but if you are interested in it, it will be available for a short amount of time. Speaking of availability, this collection is going to be launching on Friday, October 18th. And as a reminder, I am an affiliate with Cracked Polish. So if you do want to support me while shopping this collection, you can shop through my link in my description box down below. As always, a big thank you to all of you who do support me through that. But even if you don't pick these up, I do hope that you like the video, and of course, leave me a comment letting me know any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!